You're listening to a Deaf, Blind Potter podcast. Welcome to the Perseverance podcast. My name is Kelvin Crosby. Also, some of you know me as the Deaf, Blind Potter. And I tell you today, it's going to be a really interesting story. This man that we're going to interview is truly a man persevering through his challenges. And if you haven't listened to Spencer Renfro's story, it's going to have some similarities, but very different. And we're going to see how God works through this man's life and helps him keep persevering through his daily challenges. So are you ready to go through this challenge with me today? Let's do this. Persevering is what's going to allow you to overcome. But you have to find joy with the pain that you live with. It's not going to be easy. But the reward and the character that you will build in persevering through your challenges will be so rewarding and give you so much hope. Are you ready to persevere through your challenges? Let's do this. Hey, Kijuan, welcome to the Perseverance podcast, man.
Thanks for having me, Kelvin. I really appreciate you having me on.
I'm looking forward to it. You're from North Carolina. What part of North Carolina are you at?
I'm born and raised in Durham.
How were you raised? Like, were you raised in the church, not in the church? Kind of tell us that story.
As soon as I popped out the womb, I was right there on the pew. So it was like, hello, we going to clap our hands today? All right, I can do that. I was born and raised in church. My family, pastors, ministers, elders, deacons, missionaries, you name it, we got it, so we could start a church by ourselves if we wanted to. So it was one of those things. I'm a musician, by the way, in my church. So I literally grew up in the church.
Yeah. So when was that moment in your life where God got a hold of you and like this actually became real for you? Like you actually started having a relationship with Christ?
Ooh, that would definitely have to be after my accident. Because I had my accident at the age of 25. So, I'm still out here trying to party and stuff. I've tried that and it's not even fun anymore. Honestly, I can't get with it anymore as much as I used to. I honestly felt like when I was doing it back before I lost my sight, I kind of felt out of place. I just knew how to fit in. You know what I mean? So It's one of those things. I felt like I needed a drink just to get in the mood.
Yeah.
And that's where I knew if I need an additive to feel right in your environment, then I'm not supposed to be here.
Yep. And I think that brings up a really interesting point, is that when God convicts you, it makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And when you're uncomfortable, then you're doing something wrong. And so let's go do something better to replace that. And I feel like I've had this conversation with probably 10 different people in the last 2 weeks about this specific thing, because when it comes to a relationship with God, you're wanting to have a relationship, and so you want to be obedient to what he's doing in your life. And by seeking that relationship, it just makes it easier. It's not going to make your life easier. It just makes it easier to be obedient to him. So you went into the military at 18?
19 to be exact. I was doing the in-processing part at the age of 19. So all the pre-paperwork, the pre-workouts, all that stuff, you're filling out the stuff, you're going to the medical in-processing station and all that stuff, and picking your job, all that was done at 18. But you have to wait for a day in order for you to go into the actual service, like to fly down to boot camp. Because if they let everybody come on the day they sign on that piece of paper, it would be flooded down there, So we all had a date to go. It's kind of like college, you got to wait until the open enrollment, and then you go in the fall or the summer or the spring, it's like that. So I was 19, and boy, oh boy, was I excited. But I was nervous at the same time. I was excited because I was getting ready to start something new and make money. Like, I was so tired of these fast food restaurant paychecks that don't get me nothing. And then, the nervousness was because, first off, I've only flown on a plane one time.
Oh, boy.
And I'm getting ready to do that for my life. Like, my career is about to be spent on a plane. And I've only flown once. You know what's crazy? The turbulence that I felt was on the way to basic training. When I felt that, I said, maybe this is a bad sign. Maybe I'm not supposed to be going. Maybe I'm not supposed to be going to boot camp right now. Can we choose a different day?
Yeah.
And the reason I remember the turbulence is because there was a young lady sitting to my right. She was sitting by the window seat. And this was her first time on a plane, like ever. So, this was my second time. This is her first time. So what happened? Again, this is my second time, but I'm kind of a adrenaline junkie. So, it was like, whoa, this is cool. Until I felt her nail digging in my arm. And it's crazy because I think we weren't leaving from North Carolina. We were somewhere else. And that was like our midway stop. You know how you have like one stop or on the way or something. But she was actually from North Carolina, and we did not leave from the same flight in North Carolina. So it was crazy. And I was like, oh, you're from North Carolina? So that's how we kind of, got talking. But she was on her way to Army. I was on my way to Air Force. I said, that's crazy. I said, that's crazy. They're going to lose 2 recruits on a plane.
Oh, that's good.
That's how my whole journey began,
As you went into the Air Force, what was your job in the Air Force?
My job was in-flight refueling. I was listed as an in-flight refueling specialist. And what that means in layman's terms, for those people who are like, what? You know about the gas stations on the ground. Well, just imagine pulling up to a flying gas station. Yeah, that's basically what that was. We were a flying gas station. The coolest job I've ever heard of. Okay, I don't care what these people say. Better than being a fighter pilot. I don't care what you say, because I got to refuel you. I still got to see you. Yeah. So I get to see all the planes. You only get to touch one. Yeah, I get to touch all of them. So I get to refuel the fighters, man, the bombers, the heavy aircraft, like the cargo planes, C-5, C-130s, C-17, stuff like that, and the reconnaissance planes too. So that was really cool. Back in the day when they still had, I'm not sure how familiar you are with airplanes, but you remember that X-Man airplane?
Oh yeah,
that black one they used to fly around, the SR-71.
Oh yeah,
yeah. That they used to refuel that back in the day before they, of course, scrapped it because it cost way too much money to keep running. But the other thing is, when you used to refuel that sucker, the fuel used to come out of it.
Oh, okay.
Because it went so fast. That SR-71 went so fast that when it did finally slow down, all the panels are expanding. So it's allowing fuel to come out. And we were like, hey, why is it doing that? And they were like, well, since it was just doing almost Mach 2, it's hot. It's pretty cool, the things that you get to witness.
Basically, you did a very dangerous job that could blow up anytime if you got a little bit of turbulence. So eventually you figured out that your turbulence wasn't that big of a deal for you.
The one where I told you I got the nail in my arm, that wasn't bad. Nowhere near as bad as a big old plane being behind you and they like separate from you and you just feel like you're about to get pulled, like sucked out of the sky because of the air. The aerodynamics of that stuff is ridiculous. So it's like a bubble. We call it a bow wave, but it's basically like a bubble that they come into. And that bubble is the one that recreated, my plane created, but they're now a part of it. So now it's a bubble of 2 planes. When that other plane separates out of that bubble and it does it really fast, it almost like creates this weird effect. If you were like watching us from the side, you would be able to see our tail slowly kind of descending backwards, almost like we're popping a wheelie in the sky. It would do that. But if you did it really fast, it would kick our autopilot off. And what the pilots call it is a handful of airplane. You now got a handful of airplane. Hold on, buddy. That happened to me once with the C-5. The C-5 is the biggest aircraft we have in the Air Force. And that sucker is massive.
How many years did you do?
I did 10 years, 3 months, and 17 days, but I'm not counting.
What happened?
So on that day, man, I would do my retirement ceremony. Bittersweet, to say the least, because I felt like my career was literally snatched away from me, with the accident. There was no, if we just do this surgery, we can get you back up and running. No, there was none of that. And so I literally felt like my career was snatched away from me unwillingly because I definitely wanted to keep going. I was actually pursuing my 4-year college degree to become a pilot. So it was bittersweet, man. I mean, not just me, but people around the room crying, like my squadron mates, the people who I was in the Air Force with, they're just like, this sucks. We love what we're doing to retire you, but it hurts because we wish you were still serving with us. Man, listen, that brotherhood and that sisterhood of members in the military is some kind of different, man. The camaraderie is something different when you've been serving alongside people that know what you do, know how well you did it, and just knew that you had a heart and a passion for it. So it was hard, man. It was hard.
Let's get into what caused you to retire. So let's talk about that accident.
Yeah, man. May 5th, 2017, for sure. Man, who-wee. Some might call it Cinco de Mayo. I call it my new life journey. So when the accident occurred, they said it was about 2 o'clock, according to the police report, like 2 p.m. Honestly, so I just went to take some photography shots for a building establishment, however you want to phrase it, that I needed to update pictures for on the website. That's what I used to do. That's my side gig. I was a photographer, a website designer and manager, and also a social media marketing personnel. I had just finished doing that. So I was on my motorcycle. The ride from my apartment to that location might have been 10 minutes. And for those who ride motorcycles, that's not enough. My thought process was, well, you know what? I'm going to take a little bit of a longer ride. I know I can go. And for any of those who are familiar with North Carolina, I went to Jordan Lake. And so I rode out to Jordan Lake, and from the destination or the current location that I was to the destination that I had to get to was about 30, 35 minutes. So that's one way. I was like, oh yeah, that's a good solid ride. I can do that. And while I'm there, I can, sit down, clear my head, zone out a little bit. So I did that for a while until a car comes flying by and I'm like, oh shoot, what time is it? And I look at my wristwatch. I said, oh yeah, I gotta go. Because again, I had to work that night. So I hop back on the bike and I take off, man. And at this point in time, I have a Bluetooth headset on my helmet to talk on the phone if I need to answer calls, listen to music if I'm just riding for a long time, or even, have my GPS running if I need to get directions. And so as I'm riding, trees whizzing by my head, man, and I'm just having a great time. It was a beautiful day in North Carolina in May. It's beautiful, man. I'm getting ready to come up on this intersection. And usually at the intersections around these types of areas, the trees are cut back so that they can see what's coming. I still don't know to this day because I never asked. Didn't want to. This guy pulls out in front of me. It's a Honda Accord, silver Honda Accord. I'm running 55 miles an hour on a motorcycle. For my riders out there, y'all know, trying to stop at the last minute, it's not happening. You will either flip or slide. So I tell everybody, I said I had 3 options. I could go right and go into the trees. Nah, that ain't looking too good. I could go left and go into oncoming traffic. Are you crazy? Or I could do what ended up happening, which is freezing up and hitting him. And so that's how I would end up visually impaired, like 100% blind. I would end up with a severe traumatic brain injury, to where I'm susceptible to seizures. Emotions are something that I have to control. So I do go to mental therapy for that stuff. I would end up with a medically infused spinal cord. So I have 2 rods and 12 screws in my spine and 2 broken legs, man. Metal rods in both legs. So the metal detectors really love me.
Oh yes. Well, I mean, that sounds like an experience at TSA.
This is the only reason why I haven't moved out of North Carolina, because I fly out of Raleigh-Durham International. When I walk in there, they know me already. Oh wait, he has metal.
All right, let's talk about this recovery, because we both know when you lose your vision, you have a traumatic brain injury. When you have a life-changing situation, you have to grieve. That grieving process either will take you to the grave or it will make you bloom into something amazing. Did it take you almost to the grave?
Absolutely. Yeah, I can't lie about that. I actually wrote about it in my book too. One thing I gotta preface here is that if you ever, and this is to any listener, not just Kelvin here, if you ever have someone, whether it's a friend, family member, associate, coworker, whatever they are to you, that goes through something traumatic, some kind of experience that puts them in a facility, whether it be a hospital, rehab center, whatever, please, if they can, please go visit them, because the visitations that I received were like beyond amazing and helpful. They actually helped me get back to who I was, because every time somebody would come in there, I would love to tell them the story of what I did in physical therapy. Oh man, you're not gonna believe it. Today I actually walked down and back on the parallel bars, and stuff like that. And so you have to have that type of support. Support matters, because that's when I started getting to that point when the support started falling off. When people started ghosting me, such as a past relationship, they literally ghost me to the point where you change your whole phone number. What? You changed your number? And I know you changed your number because I was texting and calling. They're like, "Who are you looking for?" And I told them, they're like, this is not their number. That happened. Then, like I say, you stop getting the visitations you used to get. That starts falling off. And so you get to the point where you're talking to people about certain things. They're telling you, blah, blah, blah. This hasn't changed you. This hasn't done. My accident wasn't supposed to change me. Yeah, it changed my outward appearance and some of the bones that's inside of me. But it wasn't supposed to change who I am, who Kijuan Amey is. I'm sitting there thinking, how would you feel if I wasn't here anymore? And so that's when I started to turn to those thoughts. Well, I wonder how you'd feel if I wasn't here at all. You wouldn't be able to say these things then. And you would feel like the worst of yourself. And that's what people tend to think. Like, these are the things that come across your mind because you're tired of hearing people complain about you. You're tired of hearing this is what you should do, that what you should. I'm going to end it all. And they think that ends it all. It does for you. It ends it for you. But the life you left, the people you impacted, you touched, they still have to deal with it.
It is one of those moments when you get to that point. The day that I took the first time to unalive myself was the day I wasn't thinking about nobody else. I didn't want this deaf blindness. All I wanted was to get rid of my misery. But when we think about Job, we think about King David, we think about Jesus, we think about all these individuals. None of them gave up. They showed how persevering. I mean, David could have gave up really easily with King Saul. Jesus could have gave up really easily. Look at Apostle Paul. Apostle Paul never gave up. But God is a merciful God.
Exactly.
God is a healing God. So let's talk about moving forward. Because you hit that bottom. Where was that moment when God picked up your foot and said, Kijuan, let's move?
When he told me, you're not living for them, you're living for me. That was when everything changed. Before the accident, I was, doing what I'd wanted to do. After that accident, it was time for me to do what he wanted me to do. And when you make that choice to live for him, he'll give you the answers. But you can't do both. It has to be one way or the other. As the Bible says, if you're lukewarm, he'll spew you out his mouth. You can't do both. And so when you do decide to take that stance and turn, and now you're on his side wholeheartly. The Bible says, choose ye this day whom you will serve. You cannot serve two masters. So you'll serve one, you'll love one and hate the other is what it'll say. Once I understood what he was saying in regards to, you're not living for them. So all that stuff they keep saying about you, all the stuff they keep throwing on you, everything they done to you, it doesn't matter. What matters is what you do for me and the kingdom. And that was when I knew.
So let's talk about that recovery process. Because that recovery process, you had to find joy. Because as Romans 5:3-4 says, you are going to go through suffering. When you take the oath of Christ, You will go through suffering, and you will have to find joy in it. By doing that, you will persevere. It's not if. There is no if. You will. And you will build a character that will give you hope in Him. Where was that moment when you were like, God, I just need a little bit of joy here to get me through this?
A lot of times it was, doing those rehabs, man. I remember one time I had to walk down the street, right? And hear me clearly. We just walking down the street and coming right back to the house. But I had to learn how to walk all over again. So this ain't just no stroll down the street. You got fresh legs and nothing's wrong with you. And nothing's ever happened to you. I have a broken spine. I have 2 broken legs, a messed up foot that likes to swell whenever it wants to, and I can't see. I gotta now walk out of my house, down 5 steps at that time, walk down a uneven sidewalk onto some grass and step off of a curb to now get to the street. I'm not even at the street yet. Then we go down the street towards the stop sign. I got to watch out for this manhole. I got to watch out for this pile of leaves. I got to watch out for this car on the right side of the road. Things that people don't really realize about being visually impaired, being injured, being unaware. Thankfully, I wasn't using a cane at that time. I was on my walker and my therapist was walking beside me. But I was like, listen, that was the longest walk. I told him, I said, we walking where? He said, we're going to walk down to the stop sign and come back. I said, listen, if we get down here to this stop sign and I can't come back, I'm getting on your back because you're going to get me back in this house. Like, who told you I could walk that far? I did make it, man. And perseverance, my mindset, once I got to a certain point, I said, I done made it this far. I'm going to make it all the way back. And you know what helped me even more? So there was a lady at my house, Miss Sheila Noel. She was there to kind of watch me, help me if I needed things done and stuff like that, because I wasn't fully able to take care of myself at that time. So she was standing out there on the porch and watching me come back up the street. And when I got to a certain point where she could see me, she started cheering. Man, listen, that right there put a smile on my face and gave me that extra energy to make it all the way back. Because I was just ready. It was like I was just ready to say, I can't do this. And all I needed to do was hear that extra cheer. So when I say that support matters, man,
when we have that support, when we have it in Christ, we have it in the people around us. And that's why the body of Christ is so important. And why we need people around us. Because if you try to do it alone, and you try to do it on your own strength, you're too weak. We can't use our own strength to get through it. My good friend Spencer, he had a traumatic brain injury and also lost his vision. And the first time I met him, he was so scared to go out in front of his front door. He couldn't put on his pants, couldn't figure out how to go to the bathroom, and he was terrified of that front door. And I was like, let's just do it. I taught him how to dance with that stick. I couldn't tell him it was a blind cane yet because he didn't know that he was blind yet. Because as you would know, you don't want to go backwards in the traumatic brain injury. You want to keep moving forward. And so in his case, they didn't tell him that he was blind for almost 3 months after he came home. And I'll never forget that day. Him and I walked out that step. He figured out how to tap and feel that curb, that step, and stepped down. His whole family was cheering and screaming, and I was just crying because I was so excited to see him take that one step. That one step changed the world for him, and it sounds like it did the same thing for you.
Absolutely.
So kind of tell us a little bit, what is your process now? Like how are you continuing to grow? How is God using you now to really make an impact in this world, using your challenges to help other people persevere?
One of the biggest things is I try to show it by doing, social media posts. It's kind of like everybody else's, but at the same sense, mine is more so revealing what I'm able to do. And I just did a recent post not too long ago, the caption said, Kiwi, they said they need some motivation. And then I said, well, here you go. And the video was me in the gym, and I was doing deadlifts, and I did 225 pounds 8 times. In the video, I'm explaining to them what I'm about to do. I said, I'm going to try to go for 6. If I can get to 8, that'll be great, because it was heavy. I knew it was heavy. I was going up in weight. I had just did 185 before that, and now I'm jumping to 225. And so my thought process was, I know I can do at least, 6 of these, but I'm hoping to get 8. Man, I did 8 of those. I did that 6, and I just didn't want to stop. Like, once I started going, I got in a zone almost, and I just kept going. I put up posts like that to show others that if you would have told me back June the 6th, somewhere around there, because that's when I woke up from my medically induced coma and could not really move at all. People were moving me, basically. If you would have told me I would be picking up 225 pounds from off of the ground, basically 8 times, I would be like, not with this back, not with these legs, not with that foot, until I did it. The thing is, people want to be where I am instead of take the journey I went on. It's okay to want to be where I am, but you have to know where I came from in order to get here. That was not easy. It's still not easy. My back's still sore from Saturday. Last year in January, I went to Stowe, Vermont. I don't know if you've ever been skiing.
I've been snowboarding. Okay,
yeah, I did downhill skiing without sight and did not fall. Yep. I didn't fall. And I think the most impressive encounter that I had when I was there, because I was there for a week, the most impressive encounter I had when I was there was a little kid. He's walking around or, sliding around with his skis, and he's like bumping into me. His ski crossed over mine. That's how close he was to me. And my instructor, she was like, hey, watch your skis, watch your skis. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. And so he steps over to the side. He's like just staring at me. And I was wearing one of those vests that says blind skier. Yep. And so he read it, and he walks up. He's like, oh, no way. That's crazy.
Don't you love those?
Dude, it's awesome. And the reason I say that is because I had no clue what he was doing until he started talking. I just thought he was like not paying attention and stepped on my ski. No, he was trying to see under my goggles if like my eyes were still there.
Man,
how curious kids can be.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
So it was one of those moments, and I was just like, oh, that's so amazing. It's adorable,
Yeah. So let's go ahead and talk about your socials and your book. So tell us a little bit about your book.
Yeah, my book, Don't Focus on Why Me, From Motorcycle Accident to Miracle. I wrote that book, published it June of 2021, actually the same year and month of which I retired from the Air Force. I did not plan that, by the way. I wrote that book to tell my story, the first person side of the story, because I kept hearing everybody else's. I heard my mom's, I heard my dad's, I heard my cousins, I heard everybody, my brothers and sisters. I heard everybody's story. But what about me? That's the story y'all not hearing. So let me do the honors and tell it. I just, started it out with what I was doing at the time before the accident. And I don't mean just that day. I mean, like what my life was like. And took you up to the date of the accident, told you what I was doing, what we kind of already touched on in this podcast. And then I tell you about me waking up, going into that hospital, man, and the recovery, the rehab, the time that I was able to get out of there, the depression. I did mention, the suicidal thing. And I was like, I got to write this book for me. It was a method of release. I was able to release something. It was all these emotions that were pent up inside and all these different things, these thoughts and stuff that I just had built up inside, and I needed them to get out. And the biggest thing that I wanted this book to portray is the vulnerability. Because I was in the Air Force. They don't teach you vulnerability in the military. So I wanted to portray that. That was the biggest thing I was trying to portray.
Talk to us. Where can they find you on the socials?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me at amymotivation.com. That is AMEY motivation.com. And on that website, you can find all my social media handles: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and I believe my YouTube is linked there as well. If you go there, you can find my book. You can also book me as a motivational speaker for your next event or conference. Thank you.
So we'll have all that in the notes down below. So now today you're doing motivational speaking, you're doing coaching, and
mentoring.
Okay. It's been an honor having you on, getting your story, getting people to kind of hear your story and really have that moment where, we got to take the next step forward.
Yeah, Kelvin, I greatly appreciate it, man. I do.
So, all right. Well, that wraps up the Perseverance Podcast. Here comes your Perseverance Corner. Today's passage from Proverbs 16:9. The heart of man plans his way, but the Lord establishes his steps. When I think about this passage, I think about how God really wants to set our lives on his plan, not on ours. And a lot of times we have this grand old idea that this is our plan and this is what our life is supposed to be. We check off the box, we completed different tasks and got to know those different things. But really, is that God's plan for your life? I mean, you look at Kijuan, at his story, God decided, I'm going to change this up because he was walking astray, doing his own thing, and said, I need you to be doing my work. That's exactly what we as individuals need to have in mind. Is the plan that we have planned out for our lives the one that God has for our lives? I think about my life and the struggles that I've had in the most recent months. I'm going through these seasons because I am following God's plan so that way I can then further his ministry. Let me clarify what I just said. I mean, the CB Cane has been doing the same thing for the last almost a year now. We've been on the same part that's holding us back for a year. But in this time of waiting, I'm realizing this was God's steps for me. To wait, to be obedient, to follow his plan, not my own. And I think we have to get out of our own way to be able to allow God to do his work in our lives. If you think about it in those terms, you will find that God will truly transform your life when you're allowing his steps to be your foundation. Think about that. Every step you make is a foundation of what God is laying before you. Is he moving your feet or you moving your feet? Make sure that you are in step with God's plan. Because if you go too far away, he will do something just as dramatic as Kijuan's story. So that he can get your attention and say, hey, I need you to follow my plan. Because I want you to be in heaven with me. Our reward is not on earth. Our reward is in heaven. Really think through your plan for your life, your purpose. Is your purpose your desires or is that God's desires? Because when you're in relationship with God, your desires become God's. Because God embeds that in you and burns it in a way that you don't quite fully understand, but you know it's the truth. And it sets you free. That's the Perseverance Corner. And I tell you, I really want you to really be able to persevere through your challenges. So make sure that you are in step with God. It's time for announcements. And the first announcement is, where am I going? As of this recording, Iowa, already been to Charlotte, been to Philadelphia, to Colorado, potential Louisiana, and then home, and then back to Charlotte, and then back to Louisiana. Just continuing to move forward the See Me Cane, making sure we get the See Me Cane to production. Because we just don't have too much time before we gotta launch the See Me Cane, and we gotta get it done. So if you are on the East Coast, like Charlotte, North Carolina, Louisiana, or Texas, or something like that, and you would like to see me while on one of these travels, definitely reach out to me at kelvin@perseverancepodcast.com, and would love to meet up with you. It's gonna be a crazy month of May, so I'm excited about that. So the next thing in the announcements is I need your prayers. So as of this recording, I have an ear infection in my left ear. Working on trying to get this under control. So to be praying that God will take care of my body and heal me from head to toe and help me through this process. Because honestly, Satan is trying to slow down me being able to make things happen. Alright, next thing in the announcements is if you are not following me on TikTok or YouTube at See Me Cane, I'm doing a really, really cool series. It's called Did You See Me Today? It either has humor, it has a serious moment, or it has just an educational moment. I did a video of me just walking down the street, and all you see is the See Me Cane, and I end up hitting a fire hydrant. My biggest issue with that is why they put fire hydrants in the middle of a sidewalk. Haven't you ever heard it put it to the right? What's the difference? But no, they put it smack in the middle of the sidewalk. So wheelchairs can't get around it, and blind people always smack it. So what you do in this video is I'm just walking naturally and I smack it hard. And I'm giving you a voiceover saying, well, I can decide to let this destroy my movement or just walk around it and keep on persevering. That is these videos that I'm posting every day, Monday through Sunday, and they're inspiring, they're encouraging, they're uplifting. So that's all at See Me Cane on YouTube and TikTok. Fourth announcement is See Me Cane Podcast. So again, I talked about this last month, but See Me Cane Podcast keeps you up to date on where we are with the See Me Cane in our launch in October. And that comes out every other week. So that's the second and fourth Mondays of every month. And then what's cool is I do a Light Up the Blind Moment segment where I highlight somebody visually impaired doing something cool, and then any cool news that's happening with the See Me Cane. And then lastly, if you would like to get presents for your loved ones with Deafblind Potter pieces, you can go to deafblindpotter.com and check that out. If you want to buy a mug or a vase or whatever, the pieces there. And hint, hint, there will be some new style pieces coming in the near future. Can't talk about it at the moment, but we're going to be coming out with more pieces that are a lot more blind friendly to handle. That wraps up the announcements. If you want to be on my podcast, definitely email me at kelvin@perseverancepodcast.com. I would love to do a pre-show interview and kind of get to know you, and then also do the full interview and get you on the show. Go live beyond your challenges, and I will see you in 1 month. Now you ready to persevere for your challenges today. Thank you for joining me on the Perseverance Podcast. If you'd like to get a hold of me, you can email me at kelvin@perseverancepodcast.com. You can also follow me on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Deafblind Potter. If you'd like to buy some merch or some Deafblind Potter pieces, you can go to deafblindpotter.com. Please give us a 5-star rating and subscribe to the Perseverance Podcast so you don't miss an episode. That way, you and I can continue living beyond our challenges and persevering through them too.